artistic director of the Public Theater. He is an ambassador of the arts, a friend of freedom, and our favorite hippie, Mr. Oscar Eustace.
Thank you, guys. Thanks, Casey. Thanks, Pride. Thanks to all of you for being here. Just a couple of things I need to say to you. The first is I want to thank Broadway Cares Equity Fights AIDS, who really supported all of this. It's a fantastic organization. I'm incredibly proud to be associated with it. And the second thing is I just want to welcome all of you here on behalf of Public Theater. This is one of the things that the Public Theater believes in and does. The idea that the theater doesn't stop at just what we perform on stage. But the theater is actually supposed to reach out and change lives at its best. And I'd make the contention that that's what the theater's always done. That's what a profession has done. It's the most democratic of professions. It started in the same decade that democracy was born in ancient Athens. They thought of the theater at the same moment that they thought of democracy. The idea that somehow power should flow from the people, from below up above, not from above down. And it got revived in Elizabethan England with Shakespeare. But to say it even more personally, I think all of us know it, because it's why we got into the theater. We got into the theater. I know it's true for me, and I suspect true for everybody here at some point, because it was a place that we who didn't fit in anywhere else felt ourselves accepted, that we could call home, that everything about us that seemed unusual, idiosyncratic, and different, that was, and I'm going to try not to be too personal here, but was the subject of scorn and mockery in junior high school, was actually, when we went into the theater, the source of our great strength. It's what we got embraced by. And I think, you know, as Gavin said to me when he first started talking about doing this, there's something beautiful about the idea that we as a field, we as a profession, can step out front and try to take a lead in the fight for equality for all Americans. That idea that we all are part of this, that we all have equal rights to happiness, to love, to connection with one another, and to equality before the law and in the community, I think is something that part of the theater, is the heart of the theater. So what I'm hoping today is just one other step, not just on equal rights for all Americans, but on the idea that the theater is going to proudly stand up and say that's what we stand for as a field. And we have a lot to say to the rest of the country about how that can work, and the joy and bliss and community that can come from all of us for doing that. So on behalf of that equality, thank you for this. And it's my honor and my pleasure to introduce my colleague David Stone, who most of us know as the award-winning producer of Putnam County Spelling Bee and Vagina Monologues and Next to Normal and Wicked, who's also an incredibly active member of our community on the board of Broadway Cares Equity Fights AIDS, the Broadway League, advisory boards for Second Stage, for V-Day. He's also the founder of the Defying Inequality concerts, and again, just not only a great producer, but a really, really good citizen. David Stone.
So, I really hate speaking in public, but this is something that is so important to me that I need to be here. I'm sure that my journey to this point is probably similar to some viewers. About 10 years ago, I was at a family dinner, and my cousin said to me that he felt that children would only grow up healthy if they were raised by a mother and father. I said, well, what about two loving parents? He said, no. I said, you mean that gays and lesbians shouldn't be able to adopt? He said, no. I said, do you think gays and lesbians should have the right to marry? He said, absolutely not. I said, do you think that I shouldn't have the same rights as you? He said, that's right. I said, do you think that I'm less of a person than you? He said, yes. Now, I haven't spoken to him in 10 years, and not out of anger, but just it's not healthy to have someone who feels that way about me, you know, in my life. But from that point on, I hoped that people in this country, and especially people in power, would do the right thing. And things have moved slowly, But then, last November, when Proposition 8 passed, I was enraged. And so I spoke to Mark Platt, who's my producing partner on Wicked, and said, we have to do something. The tour of Wicked's going to Salt Lake City. Maybe we should cancel the engagement. He said, yes, let's cancel the engagement. I said, actually, we probably shouldn't do that because that's really not fair to the whole community. That's painting a whole town, a whole community in the same way that I think the Mormon Church painted our community in California. But we wanted to do something that would make it better, not that would just call names. Because if Wicked is about anything, it's about not judging who people are based on who you perceive them to be. So we felt we couldn't sort of force our politics on everyone working on the show, on everyone in the building. So we asked each of the companies voluntarily if they wanted to do a benefit fundraiser performance to raise money for these causes, and they said yes. And so on the same night in January, in all 4 North American companies, in New York, in Chicago, in Los Angeles, and in Louisville, Kentucky, where the tour was, we did these Defying Inequality benefits. Then a month later in New York at the Gershwin, with the entire theater community, we did another one. And through those, we donated and raised and distributed $500,000, which was split between 4 state organizations, 4 equality organizations in New York, New Jersey, California, and Vermont. And Vermont actually took the money that we gave them, and within 8 weeks of lobbying efforts, had marriage pass there. So we're proud of all that, but that's just the beginning. Getting equality in states is great, but this has to be a federal right, and it has to happen now. There's a quote: "Change will not come if we wait for some other person or some other time. We are the ones we have been waiting for. We are the change that we seek." That was said by our truly amazing president, and he was a candidate. He actually promised the gay and lesbian community that he would be bringing a lot of change for us. So it's especially disappointing that now that he's in the White House, that we're being advised to wait and to be patient. No. We are tired. We are tired of being asked to support local and state and federal politicians who forget their promises to us after they have our donations and our votes. We are tired. We're tired of paying taxes for wars we don't believe in. We're tired of paying taxes for bankers to keep their bonuses. We're tired of having discrimination written into our laws. And I am tired of waiting. I want my fucking rights, and I want them now. In New York State alone, 1,324 rights and responsibilities are denied us because we don't have the right to marry. But there's a lot we could be doing to get those, and if we can go to the march in Washington, we must go. If we can't, if we have a matinee, as some of us do, there are so many other things we can be doing. And so I want to introduce Alan Van Pelt, who's the Executive Director of the Empire State Pride Agenda, which is our civil rights organization for the LGBT community here in New York.